Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. What's the word? Our podcast. We're here with your boy Brian and with Lalo, and we're here on our fifth recording, fifth session, fifth. It's not the fifth word. It's actually the fourth. Well, fourth/third because we did an intro, but you guys get the idea. And it's good to be back. It's good to be here. And Lalo, why don't you tell us about what we're gonna talk today?
So the word of the day, and I switched it up on Brian the last minute. It is identity.
Identity.
So reason why I switched to last minute is because I've sort of been feeling sort of the Holy Spirit, and I guess that just thinking about a little bit. What are we going to be talking about the next upcoming episodes? You mentioned something on the other day on the youth group that we do have with church about point A and point B, which is something I'm currently learning in
Okay.
at Mission online.
Okay.
Which fun fact, Upper Room's going.
Yeah, they're
to
going
Mission. Yeah.
in like 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, I was like, oh, that's sick. It sucks that
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to be there in person, but
Right.
they're still gonna leave a link to obviously catch up with them online.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be nice. But now remember, while taking one of these lessons, you mentioned something on the audio that you sent to the group, to youth group chat 2 weeks ago, from mentioning point A to point B.
Mhm.
So I start to think about biblical figures, especially such as Gideon and Jeremiah, which is the passage that I do have on my phone currently, about their identity.
Mm.
So the word of the day is identity, and the definition of identity online, if you look it up on Google, it puts it up as this. It says the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. Another definition is a combination of your physical and behavioral, I don't know if I pronounced that right, traits
Behavior.
define who you are.
Mm.
So I think we start doing things when we know who we are, right?
Yeah.
We start building from who we know, like who deep down we really are. So the question is today,
Okay.
who is Brian? Who is Brian? How would you define Brian? Who is Brian?
That's a crazy deep question.
That is a deep question.
Cause I know, like Lalo mentioned, we had thought about a different word, and right before he was telling me, but we didn't really go into detail. I didn't really want to feel prepared because since Lalo had this
I think
feeling,
it's better coming in not
yeah,
prepared.
like don't get us wrong, we want to give the best, but I think the best that we can give is who we actually are. Man, all right, definition. Who is Brian? Oh, that's crazy. I view myself according to what I have heard God define me as. I think the definition of who I am is defined by who God has told me I am. So, I am a son of God. Yes, I feel like that's a very broad way of viewing it. I think that's more of like a general scope. Everyone's a son or a daughter of God. And you guys are. But one of the things that I think would define me as a specific is I'm a worshiper. Not because I play an instrument. I think I was created to worship. And I think even reading the word, I'm worshiping. So who am I? I am a son of God who worships God, who was created to worship God, who is created to be a difference in the world. And I am a person, I would generally believe or consider myself as someone who really wants to see others grow. I think that is one thing. I definitely like seeing people grow. People go from A to B. Things that I've seen it happen in my life personally. I've seen it happen in your life, Lalo. I've seen it happen I was mentioning in that day in the group chat, Leo. And it's just one of the things that most fascinates me about what God does when he starts defining who we are. He is the one that takes us from the A to the B. Yeah.
I remember porque Marcos Brunet tenía un libro,
Mhm.
a book, which is called, and I think if I'm not mistaken, it's a tree inverted, like
Yeah,
going upward,
the roots are up.
but and sort of, if I'm not mistaken, the roots were connected sort of to the sky, representing heaven or representing God, and how when we stay connected to God, we start bearing fruit.
Yeah.
We start growing fruits. I think, for example, I think we do start doing things because of who we are, and it's not the things that we do who define us. You know what I mean? So especially here in the U.S., for example, they always define you for what you're doing. Let me explain it like this.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
If you're a doctor,
yeah.
Oh, he's Dr. Brian. It's not Brian. It's Dr. Brian. Why? Because that's what he does, right?
Okay.
It's I was like, oh, well, he's a construction worker. Well, they sort of here in the U.S. especially, the first thing they sort of connect you with is for what you do, and usually what you do is who they define you are. Like, oh, he's a construction. Oh, then I probably already know like how he acts, how he does this, how he does certain things,
right,
or what he eats, right? And I think it's like it's not a bad thing, right? But I think when we look at it through the lenses of God, God sort of works the other way around. He affirms who we are. He calls us his children. I think about, for example, Jeremiah, right? Literally in the first chapter, Jeremiah was a prophet in the Old Testament. And let me see if I could find it. Literally saying, like, oh, no, well, why are you choosing me, right? Like, I don't know how to speak.
Right.
Like, you shouldn't be choosing me. I'm way too young. I don't know historically. I don't know how old he was. I don't know if you do.
He was young. I don't know exactly.
I don't know about like an age specifically, but
yeah.
Point is, he was young. Same thing happened with Gideon. Like, nah, dude, why are you choosing me? Literally, when God was speaking upon Gideon was hiding. He's like, nah, man, I don't want you to call me. I was like, no. I know who you are, right? And you are who I say I am. So, I think because of sin, we have sort of this image of ourselves that isn't according to God. So, and we were created in God's image. That's literally what it says in Genesis.
Yeah.
So, for example, in my own case, and I was speaking this to one of the overflow sessions that we had one Wednesday, and I spoke to you about it on a Sunday night, and I think I've always had this sense for the things that I'm doing need to be approved of. You know, I was operating for the sense of from a foundation of my abilities.
Okay. Yeah.
What I'm doing, and that's who defined me. Like, but that's such a weak foundation that I'm trying to build on. And identity is something that I think our generation, as a whole, is suffering. I think a lot of our generation, and I'm not saying this like, oh, guys, you know, I already made it to the goal. I don't think I have. I think there's a lot of work to be done. But something that I've learned recently is that we have to build from love. Sorry if I paused. There's a little bit of a distraction, but it's all good. What was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought.
You were talking
from love. Yeah, building from love. All right, there's a lot of things going on today, huh?
It's okay.
We're building from love, and and I think that's the strongest foundation that we'll ever have. You know.
Yeah.
So I think knowing Jesus is love, porque literally in the verse that comes to mind is in Spanish, pero Dios es amor. Right? So those who haven't known Jesus don't know what love is.
Yeah. Actually, that's something very interesting. It's something that I've been... Dude, I remember I shared it to the group chat too. It's on topic, it's a little bit off topic too. The sermon from Alessandro in a conference that I went to in Nicea. And it was the 5th session. But he was talking about who God is. Like, who would you define God? Like, if I asked you, could you talk 30 minutes about God? And bro, in my mind, it was like 30 minutes. That's crazy. I can't even define my parents for 30 minutes, like straight. And that was just like confronting me a lot, that I don't really know who God is. And he's like, God is complete in God. Like God is completely satisfied in him, and he pursues us. And he is the only person / being capable of loving us completely, because he is love. And we don't understand that because we don't know who God is. And that was just blowing my mind, that I believe in God, but I haven't gotten to this point where I know him personally. And it's not only reading the Bible. Because I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, I still have to read my Bible a lot. And if you look at the disciples, they didn't know much of the scrolls. I mean, they knew the basics. They knew I guess you could say the traditions.
And reading the Bible is part of it.
Yes, like I said, it's not.
Yeah, it's not the whole thing.
It's not the whole thing, though. There's a relationship, and there's things that we're going to learn through our lecture with the Bible, reading the Bible, learning, hearing the word. But there is more. There is an identity from God. I was tripping. That God is putting in us, that can only be heard when we're listening to his voice. And whether that be whatever circumstance, in most of their cases, it was when they were alone. Yeah. I mean, Jeremiah, Samuel, Moses, they were all called when they were alone. They were separated, they were isolated, they were in a desert. So, take notice in those moments of silence, because God speaks in the silence. But yeah.
And it's interesting to think that, for example, the verse that just came to mind in my head was, the sheep know my voice.
Oh, the sheep know my voice.
The sheep know my voice. And I think it's like sort of weird, but sort of when we look for God, we sort of find who we are as well. You know? So I think God affirms us who we are, like, hey, you are love, right? It doesn't, and I remember when I was like, literally me saying that I'm doing things for the fact of needing approval, or needed like the green light, like, hey man, you're doing well, doing this and that. Mm-hmm. When I hear God say like, hey man, like whether or not you're doing all these things for me, I still love you, you know? So, and if I know you're doing it, it's because, you know, you want to get close, but don't do it for approval, do it because you love me.
Right.
And I think, for example, with a lot of addiction, right? Whether that be when we were talking about on Wednesday, which is lust, right? Which is, I mean, there's other ones out there, addictions, maybe to alcohol, maybe to smoking. I know vaping's a big one in our generation as well. And maybe there could be other things around. But, for example, when we try to do it in our own strength, or in our, how do I say this? I feel like I'm trying to express the idea, but what I'm trying to say is, or my final point is do it because you love God and you want to get closer to Him.
Because, yeah.
You know?
Not because the thing, I guess it's all connected to things that are like, I was mentioning something that we're going to do with some of the youth, and I said, let us not do it because it seems like the right thing to do, or because others are going to do it, or et cetera. Like, do it because it's really in your heart. Because I think one of the things that we make a mistake is that we do things because we view them as the right things to do. Like, that's why personally I don't view myself as a person who is in a religion. I'm in a relationship. Yeah. And I'll always view it that way. Like, when people ask me, oh, what religion are you? I'm like, technically I'm considered a Christian, but I don't want that to be like, I don't want my definition to be a Christian by religion. I want it to be a Christian by relationship. Like, he's a Christian because he reflects a small portion of Jesus Christ. Like, he is a reflection of that. So that's what I want to do, and I want to be. I don't want to do things because it's the right thing to do. That's why I think there's a point in our relationship with God where it isn't about what God allows us and what God doesn't. Like, for example, one thing is that I was facing a little bit when I was in Mexico right now was that I had uncles and aunts and relatives that aren't exactly Christian asking me why I didn't drink. and they were like, "Oh, no te dejan," they don't allow you to, or things like that, or what is
the,
it?
the classic, like the classic stuff that we all like get told, like, oh,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
all know that Christians
Like it happens like that, and it was like, "Oh, are you gonna go to hell if you don't do it?" And I was like, "No, that's not like why I don't drink." Honestly, first of all, I've never had an issue with alcohol, so technically, I can. I think as long as it's not something that provokes you into a big issue and it provokes you to sin and make mistakes, there's nothing that says you can't do it. But there's but I don't feel like I'm called for complacency. I don't think I'm called to be comfortable. I don't think that's part of my identity and in Christ. So I think there are things that I might have to sacrifice, even if they're not wrong, to be who God has destined me to be. And I think that's a calling for everyone. So there's like levels into this. Like you can be a Christian by following the rules, right? But that's exhausting. That's tiring. That's not really who you are, because you're not healing anything inside of you, and you're not doing it out of love. You're doing it out of I don't know. Like it's not even.
It's just like maybe you just want to follow the rules. You don't want to
Right.
get in trouble.
Like how you, basically it's a mask, bro. Like I don't want to say it disrespectfully, but if you're a Christian following rules and that's all you're doing, you're only following the rules because they're there and you have no idea why the rule is there, but you're gonna follow it. It's like a mask. So I think God is calling us to go into something like, hey, I don't want you to wear a mask. I want you to be who you are, but I'm going to transform that. Like, just follow me, trust in me, but your identity is going to change through me. But yeah.
Yeah, because I think when, for example, when Jesus was leading his disciples, he was never leading from a place of position or power. He was more so setting the example and being a positive influence for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was always something that, like, oh, well, if you can't serve, you know. Yeah. I forgot how. I don't really read the Bible in English like that, but obviamente en español se me viene a la mente. When he talks about serving, and the first image that comes to mind is when Jesus was washing the disciples' feet in the Last Supper. So he sets that bar for us, and he sets that example for us. He's not just saying it because well, I'm the Son of God, and you know I'm allowed to say that. But no, he came down, right, and he set the example for us. So, I think my point, or the message I do want to speak in this episode is that whether you want to stay, I think salvation is a gift for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Salvation is a gift for absolutely anyone. Now, whether you want to get closer to God, I think it's a very personal decision.
Yeah.
A very personal decision. If you want to be, you know, a person who, and I don't want to sound rude, that's completely fine, right? If you want to be the person to come on Sundays and hear the sermon, enjoy the worship a little bit, maybe go back home, do what you need to do, pray, read, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
That's completely fine. God still loves you. What we do will not change it. Doesn't change God's perspective over us. It does not. And but when
you got me thinking of something, but keep going.
When we, like, for example, there's a fly. The things that maybe we do, maybe we're spending a little bit more time in church or whatnot, or maybe we spend a little bit more time in that prayer room, you know, whether that may be here in church or especially back at home. We do it because we love to do it, right? We're not professional podcasters. We're not professional people who do this. We do this out of love. We do this because we love Jesus and we love what he has done with us and how he has affirmed us. So by saying, like, I love you, you know, it doesn't matter what you do.
Right.
So,
Hey.
Hey, um, but that kind of killed the vibe a little bit. But
Nah, it's good. It's
it's
good.
good. It's all good.
It's all
But
part of it. Like
it's all part of it.
honestly, that's one thing that I was thinking as soon as my little brother's in the like living room of the church, I guess, and the plant fell, and then this. It's like for
Playing
for
FIFA.
yeah for many people it would be like, oh, it all went wrong, let's cut it out. But for me, it's more of like,
This is who we are.
yeah, it's like it's fine, like
Mhm.
it's
And
fine.
that's
Or,
who, that's who God loves us as.
yeah, it's
You know?
like God doesn't want us to be exactly perfect. That's one thing that I was talking to someone the other day. I was like, I want to feel like I don't just come on Sundays to do what I have to do, like a routine, and then just forget completely about like God and everything. Like I want him to be the main focus. Like I'm worshiping. If I'm playing an instrument, I'm playing because God is there. If I'm serving in any other area, it's because I want to do it with the best intention because God is there, and that's what I want to be doing. Like I want my heart to be focused that God is present in every single place. And I think that that's another thing that I would add to like, who am I? If people ask me, yo, who are you? I guess more than people, because most people don't tend to ask you who you
But
are.
I think it's good to ask ourselves that
Yes,
question a lot.
that's what I was about to say. It's like, and I think if I'm just like introspecting in this whole, is it introspecting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is interesting.
introspecting. Like during this whole like conversation, I'm just really thinking a lot about me. And one thing that you were mentioning that I kind of wanted to point at, and I was looking for it. And I was just reminded of this, of Abraham and Lot. In Genesis 13, when God calls, like God basically, like they have to separate. Like their families are fighting, their possessions, their workers are all fighting. So Abraham's like, bro, we gotta split. Like before this gets out of hand, and he's like, let's not allow this to come between us. Let's just go our own ways. We all got things. He's like, if you go left, I'll take the right. If you prefer the right, I'll go to the left. Like you choose, wherever you choose, I'll go exactly the opposite way. And it says that Lot looked, literally in chapter 13 of Genesis, verse 10. Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Sor. The whole area was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord or the beautiful land of Egypt. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with his uncle Abraham. So that's when Abraham went to Canaan. So one thing that I wanted to mention was, because you were mentioning about like the things that we do for to have or to like receive God's, no, my bad, train of thought. I lost my train of thought. You were mentioning about that there are people that only come sometimes on Sundays, and that is okay. If you're okay with it, if we're okay with it, I'm not. Like I gotta be really honest. I'm not okay with just coming on Sunday, for multiple reasons. But the main one being, I am looking for something that is not found on earth. Like I don't want my reward. I heard this saying once, and I think it's really stuck to me. It's like, if you work in the world for everything that you want, you're gonna find success, and God will bless you. Like for example, you come to church maybe once a week. You come here just to come, and then you go back and you're grinding hard. You'll be successful, but that's your reward. Like that's what you're getting. Like you'll most likely be saved. I don't really know how that works. We'll know once eternity hits, right? But let's say we all make it to heaven, but there are ranks and there are things that are rewarded to those who gave more. God is a fair judge. And I think that is the difference between in a person that follows the rules and the person that follows God. Like I think there's a distinction. And I want to have what Abraham has. In Romans, when it's talking about Abraham, it's mentioning that Abraham was looking, not Romans, in Hebrews, when it's talking about Abraham, and it's saying, Hebrews verse 11, the heroes of the faith, when it's talking about Abraham, it says that he was looking for a city that wasn't on the earth. Like he was looking for something higher, something that was above. So his eyesight, Lot was focused on where he could produce. He's like, here it's green, there's pasture, there's water, we'll be fine, we'll be successful. And then that area was destroyed. Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah. But Abraham had his view on something higher. And that made God bless everything he had there on the earth, plus what he was going to have in eternity. So focusing on God is a guarantee that not everything is going to be easy, but everything is going to be successful. Yeah.
And I think when we didn't want God in our lives, God was many times knocking on our door.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for example, in the case of Abraham, I don't think he was building, for example, or he was visualizing just because. I think he was doing it out of the foundation of love, and God told him who he was. So, trying to reach to my final closing points. Something that I do want to say to you guys, if, as we were just saying, if you're maybe, I don't know, 18, you know, you still come to church with your parents, and you feel comfortable at the spot where you're at, or you feel good, that's fine. Nobody, I don't think, should be able to judge you. I don't think it's fair. But I think if we ask the Holy Spirit and we ask God, what do you want? I think God has something so big that we can't imagine it. It's not something that we can try to put in the context of our world, right? Mm-hmm. We just can't. So, what I want to do tonight, or my point is, in this episode, is that God loves you for who you are, not for what you do. All right? And maybe at this moment in time, maybe you don't want God in your life, but trust me, He really wants to be part of yours, and He really wants to affirm who you are. And I think when He affirms who you are, that's when something just clicks, and you start visualizing Him, you start contemplating Him, and then all of a sudden, oh, I want to become more like Him.
Yeah.
So, I think one thing I do want to say to anyone who is watching this, God loves you. God wants to be a part of your life, and God calls you a son. And I think after you become a son, I've always thought of this. When you want to take a step into deeper waters, I think you become a servant. You start becoming a disciple, and et cetera, and so on, so on.
Right.
You know. So if maybe you're thinking of not maybe going to church anymore, or this and that, and maybe this is a video you just stepped upon on. Maybe this is God saying, I still love you and I still want you to be part of my plans because you're important to me, and I love you, you know? So don't build upon anything else, because my love will forever be eternal and will forever be a firm foundation for you to step on.
Hey, I just wanted to add on to what Lalo was saying. I feel as though whoever's going to be viewing this, and it's going to be my prayer tonight, when you see this, may it just be like an announcement for you guys to look and take some time to sit down, analyze who you guys are. Think about first what you guys think, what you guys have heard for your life, what you guys think of yourselves. Maybe they can be very, very negative thoughts. I had to do it once where I had to sit down and listen to my own thoughts, listen to things that I was thinking about myself, especially in moments of depression. But when you sit down in silence and you listen to those things that God is saying, that God is mentioning, all the other negatives get removed. It's like that wasn't what God planned for you. That wasn't what God designed for you. God has something better. And yeah, I just wanted to say that was my closing thought. I'll be praying for every single person. Maybe I might not know you guys by name, but God does. And God has an identity placed upon you guys. that was made from even before creation.
And that's literally what he told Jeremiah.
Yeah.
I've known you since the womb.
Since the womb, since before you were born. And there's a Psalms with David. It says, "My eyes saw your embryo." Like, I saw you when you were in the womb. Like, David says it too. So imagine how important you are if the God who created eternity, who created this world, who created everything we can visibly see, had his eyes placed on you and said, he is going to be born. She is going to be born. She is a part of my plans. He's going to have a great ministry. And at the end of the day, do things not based out of works, do things based off of love. Because that is the only way they are going to last and they're going to be valued. So, I love you guys. Whatever you guys need, you guys already know.
Yeah, man. So, but yeah, you guys feel free. Drop down a comment. And if you want to get in contact with us, please do. I'm trying to figure out a way, maybe. But I think the only thing we do have to get in contact with us is just the email that we created the account with.
I have an email.
But feel free to drop down a comment.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys soon. We love you guys. And God bless you guys and take care.
Have a good one.